If you're working in, well, just about any business today, you feel it, right? The pressure for more flexibility, more
Yeah.
speed.
Mm.
We are so far past that era where you could, spend a year planning a project in a silo, deliver it, and just hope it still meets what customers need.
Yeah, that whole rigid upfront planning model
Yeah.
it's just obsolete. The market today demands constant adaptation.
A near instantaneous feedback loop.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's really why we're doing this deep dive. We want to give you the shortcut to understanding not just what Agile and Scrum are on paper, but um, why they force such a fundamental shift in mindset.
And most critically for you, the listener, how the role of a traditional project manager completely transforms. So our mission today is to unpack this, the philosophy of Agile and then the practical structure of Scrum. We want to get at that shift from command and control to, well, continuous collaboration.
And moving away from thinking requirements are fixed to just accepting that they will evolve. That's a given.
So Agile is the starting point. It's the philosophy.
It is. And at a high level, it's a project management philosophy that values, flexibility, collaboration, and delivering actual customer value over all the rigid planning and the exhaustive documentation we used to do.
Okay, let's unpack that right now because the heart of this philosophy is the Agile Manifesto. It's a document with 4 core values that are, a fundamental break from the old way of doing things.
A huge break. And the conflict, or maybe the tension, it starts in how they're prioritized. The manifesto lists 4 values, and it says we value the items on the left more than the items on the right.
So give us those aha moments. What are they?
Okay, so first, we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. This is all about empowering the team to figure things out, not just follow a rigid organizational chart.
Right. Let the people doing the work talk to each other.
Exactly. Second, we value working software over comprehensive documentation. And this is where the traditional PM often really struggle.
Okay, hold on. I have to jump in here. Because for anyone listening who's in, say, a regulated industry, legal, finance, compliance, doesn't that sound incredibly risky to minimize documentation?
It does. It sounds risky on the surface, but
Yeah.
that's the exact tension Agile manages. It's not saying no documentation. It's saying we value the working product more than the giant stack of paper describing it.
So the focus shifts.
The focus shifts from documenting the plan to documenting the product and the decisions you made along the way. And because you're delivering working software every few weeks, you're constantly reducing risk by getting feedback, instead of trying to predict every possible risk a year in advance in a 500-page document.
That completely reframes the risk profile. You're mitigating the risk of building the wrong thing by, well, continuously building. What are the other 2 values?
Third is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. This means you're working with the customer constantly, not just pointing to a contract signed 6 months ago when their needs have changed. And finally, responding to change over following a plan. The ability to pivot based on new information is your single greatest asset.
So this philosophical shift, it really begs the question for you, the project manager listening to this. If your whole world has been detailed task lists and master schedules, this kind of pulls the rug out from under your feet.
It absolutely does. The immediate consequence is you have to move away from that familiar command and control leadership model.
Your job changes.
Completely.
Mhm.
Your new function is about facilitation, it's about coaching, and just ensuring the team has what it needs to adapt. You go from managing tasks to really enabling the environment for those tasks to get done.
Okay, so we have the mindset, that's Agile. Now we need the structure. I know Agile is sort of an umbrella term, right? It covers things like Kanban and Lean.
It does, but there's one framework that just dominates the conversation, and that's Scrum.
Scrum.
Scrum is by far the most widely used Agile framework. It's specifically designed to help teams deliver products incrementally in these short time box iterations we call sprints.
And what makes it so different from, say, a traditional phase gate process?
The foundation. It's built on empirical process control. And this is so crucial to get. It means your decisions aren't based on trying to perfectly predict the future. They're based on observation, on experience, on experimentation.
You try something, see what happens, and adjust.
You try something, check the result, and you adapt. It fully embraces uncertainty instead of pretending it doesn't exist.
But how do you sell that to leadership? How do you bring predictability into a process that, openly says, we don't know everything? How does the business trust this?
Trust is built through the 3 pillars of Scrum. These are the actual mechanisms that ensure you're always improving and delivering predictably. It's how you manage the risk of uncertainty. First is transparency.
Everyone can see what's going on.
Everyone. A clear shared understanding of what the priorities are and the state of the work. The second pillar.
Let me guess. Inspection.
Inspection. You have to regularly check your progress towards your goals. You're constantly monitoring for any undesirable variances. You don't wait for a quarterly report to find out you're off track.
And the final critical step.
Adaptation. Based on what you find during inspection, you adjust your process or your product to minimize any future problems. These three pillars, they create this closed-loop system of learning.
So if something goes wrong, transparency means you see it fast, inspection means you understand why, and adaptation means you fix it immediately.
You got it. That's the engine of Scrum.
Okay, let's dive into the practical mechanics then. How the system actually keeps a rhythm. We can think of it as the Scrum trifecta: the roles, the events, and the artifacts. They provide the accountability and clarity.
Right. Starting with the three roles, these create a balanced, autonomous team that replaces that old top-down hierarchy.
The first role is the one deciding what to build. The product owner, the PO.
The PO is the one person who represents the customer and the business. They own the product backlog, which is just the definitive, prioritized list of everything that might ever be needed for the product.
So they're constantly making choices about what's most valuable right now.
Constantly. If the PO is unclear or unavailable, the whole team just spins its wheels. It's a critical role.
Then you have the Scrum Master, the SM, and this role is so often confused with a traditional PM.
It is. The Scrum Master is a coach,
Huh?
a process facilitator. They're what we call a servant leader. They serve the PO by helping them manage the backlog, and they serve the development team by teaching them Scrum. And this is key removing impediments.
So if the team is blocked by, say, another department, the Scrum Master's job is to go clear that path.
That is their job. Get that obstacle out of the way. And finally, you have the development team itself.
The people actually doing the work.
The cross-functional group, your designers, your engineers, your testers, who are fully empowered and self-organizing. They decide how the work gets done and how much they can realistically commit to in a sprint. They own the execution.
Okay, so that's the who. Now let's talk about the rhythm. The 5 time-boxed events that give Scrum its cadence. You said time boxing is key. Why is that fixed length so important?
Time boxing creates predictability and it forces focus. If you know you only have 2 weeks, the team is forced to narrow the scope and make clear commitments. It's the ultimate defense against the scope creep that kills traditional projects.
And the foundation of this rhythm is the sprint itself.
Right. A fixed-length iteration, usually 2 to 4 weeks, that results in a potentially shippable piece of the product.
And what kicks off the sprint?
Sprint planning. This is the meeting where the product owner presents the highest priority stuff from the backlog, and the development team discusses it and commits to what they can deliver and, how they'll deliver it.
Then, to keep that pulse going every day, you have the daily Scrum, the stand-up.
15 minutes, max. And it's not a status meeting for a manager. It's a planning meeting for the team. They inspect their progress towards the sprint goal and identify any new obstacles.
Okay, so the work gets done, and then you have the feedback loop. That starts with the sprint review.
The review is absolutely critical. The team demonstrates the finished work, the increment, and gets real feedback from stakeholders, customers, executives, whoever. This is where you find out if you actually built the right thing.
And then there's the event that's just for the team, the sprint retrospective. I've heard this is the one that new teams mess up the most.
They do, because it often just becomes a polite venting session. The retrospective is the single most important event for the adaptation pillar. The team has to reflect honestly on what went well, what could be improved in their process, and then commit to 1 or 2 actual actionable improvements for the next sprint.
If you skip that or do it poorly, you stop learning.
You stop learning, and the whole point of Scrum just falls apart.
Right, so to make all this visible, we need the artifacts, the 3 things that give everyone that shared understanding.
We've already mentioned the product backlog, that master list owned by the PO.
Right.
From that, for each sprint, you create the sprint backlog.
Which is?
It's the specific subset of items the team committed to delivering in this sprint, plus their plan for how to do it. It's their working agreement for the next 2 weeks. And the final output is the increment.
The thing you actually built.
The potentially shippable thing you built. It's the sum of all the completed and tested items from the sprint. If it's not truly shippable, it's not done.
This brings us to I think, the crux of our deep dive. If the product owner sets the what and the Scrum Master manages the how of the process, where does the traditional project manager fit in? This is the paradox.
It is, and it's the most crucial detail for anyone listening who's in that role, pure by-the-book Scrum. It does not include a formal project manager role.
It's just not there.
It's not there. Those responsibilities are absorbed by the PO, the Scrum Master, and the development team. But, and this is a big, but in large organizations, the function of project management doesn't just vanish. It scales up and it shifts its focus.
So if you're a PM managing a big portfolio, what does your day look like now? You're definitely not tracking Jim's 3-day task anymore.
No, you're operating at a completely different altitude.
Yeah.
You become the orchestrator of the whole ecosystem, not the conductor of just one orchestra. Your job becomes more about program management or portfolio management.
Okay, give us the concrete tasks. What are the new accountabilities?
First, managing inter-team dependencies. If you have 5 Scrum teams all working on one big product, and Team A can't finish their work until Team B delivers an API, well, the PM is often the one managing that high-level risk and resolving that cross-team conflict, maybe through something like a Scrum of Scrums.
That makes sense. You're managing the stuff that falls between the individual teams.
Exactly. Second, you are responsible for managing high-level risks, budget, and governance. While the PO is in the weeds prioritizing features, you might be managing the overall quarterly budget for the whole program, reporting up to executives, and making sure everything stays aligned with the big business goals.
You're the bridge between strategy and execution.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And to do that job, you need transparency, which means metrics. And you can't use the old percentage complete reports anymore.
Absolutely not. Agile teams use data that speaks to capability and speed. The first big one is velocity. That's the average amount of work a team completes per sprint.
And this isn't just about showing how fast they are, is it? It's a planning tool.
It's primarily a forecasting tool. If you know a team's velocity is, say, 30 story points per sprint, you can forecast roughly how many sprints it will take to finish a 150-point feature. It also builds trust with stakeholders. It shows a reliable, measurable rate of delivery, which replaces that false security of an old Gantt chart.
And for seeing what's happening inside the sprint, there's the burn down chart.
Yep, which is just a simple visual of the work remaining over time. If the line is trending down, you're on track. If it flatlines, you've got a problem. It's simple visual transparency.
Teams also track things like cycle time and lead time, right?
Yes, to measure how long it takes for a task to get from an idea all the way to done. It's about optimizing the flow of value.
And tools like Jira, Trello, Asana, Azure DevOps, these are just the digital platforms that make all these metrics and artifacts visible.
They're the enablers, exactly. They enforce that first pillar of Scrum, transparency.
Okay, let's talk about the payoff. Why go through all this change? What are the big advantages you get from doing Agile and Scrum well?
The benefits are huge. You get faster, more predictable delivery of customer value because you're releasing small things often. You also get vastly improved adaptability and risk management because of that constant inspection and feedback loop.
And what about the team itself, internally?
Internally, you see increased team collaboration and ownership. The team is empowered to self-organize, which almost always leads to higher morale and, honestly, better solutions because the people closest to the work are making the decisions.
But no transition is perfect. We want to prepare you for the real-world challenges. What are the common roadblocks that can derail this whole thing?
The number one killer, I'd say, is organizational resistance to change from parts of the business that aren't agile. You can have a perfect Scrum team, but if the finance department still demands a fully fixed budget and scope a year in advance, the whole system breaks down.
So how do you fight that kind of inertia?
Training helps, but more importantly, it's about constant communication and delivering visible early wins. You have to show them that delivering small working increments is actually far less risky than one massive delivery at the end of a year.
Another thing we see is bad input, poor backlog prioritization. If the product owner isn't really empowered or doesn't know the business, the team just ends up building low-value stuff very efficiently.
And that's a leadership failure. The solution is for the PM, the Scrum Master, and the executives to really support that product owner, clarify how priorities are set, and make sure they're always talking to the customer.
And since we hit on it earlier, let's just state it clearly. Weak retrospectives are a massive failure point.
Oh yeah, if the retro is just complaining, adaptation stops. The solution is really rigorous facilitation. You have to make sure the team walks away with 1 or 2 concrete, actionable experiments for the next sprint, not just vague promises. It has to drive real change.
So this brings us to the end of our deep dive. You should now have the full picture. Agile is the collaborative mindset, and Scrum is the practical framework to make it happen.
To summarize, let's just hit the 5 major takeaways. 1. Agile is a mindset. It's about valuing collaboration and change over rigid plans.
2, Scrum is the practical, empirical framework you use to implement that mindset, using those short, time-boxed iterations.
3. Your role as a PM shifts entirely. You move from command and control to facilitation, enabling the environment and managing high-level risks.
4, the roles, events, and artifacts that Scrum trifecta are all designed for one thing: transparency and accountability.
And 5. The goal of all of this is simple. Deliver real, inspected value early and often, and build a culture of continuous improvement while you do it.
We've talked a lot about how your role as a PM changes inside that Scrum bubble.
Yeah.
But here's a final provocative thought for you to take with you, something that goes beyond the team.
Hmm.
If your primary job now is to protect the team's focus and ensure its adaptability, what traditional high-level business process outside your team, I'm talking about things like the fixed annual budgeting cycle or quarterly objectives that lock you in, what process has to change first for this agile mindset to truly thrive across the whole organization?
Something for you to chew on as you plan your next move.